The Kirky B Show with Bob Daspit.
It is the Kirky B Show. I'm Kirky B, and I'm here with the one and only Bobby D.
Hey,
Bob
Kirk.
Daspit. Not only Bobby D is a accomplished songwriter, producer, composer, uh, engineer, but he is also the brainchild and the mastermind behind westcopedals. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh man. Well, yeah, it's been a while since I've talked about the origins of Westco, but I guess I had already been, working on the company for maybe a year, and I think I had told you about it, but I believe it was at a NAMM show. We met up at a NAMM show. I want to say 2016, maybe. Was it? It might have been 2015 or 2017, but let's go with 2016.
Yeah, I like 16.
And yeah, we were just talking, and you said, "Hey, I've got this great idea for a pedal called the Grease Juicer. Let's make that." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And it was. I mean, you wanted an envelope filter. That's what we were talking about, and just as we went down that rabbit hole, I think it took the better part of that year to, from January till the following NAMM show to kind of, get that together. And as we went down the rabbit hole, first we were just looking for a good envelope filter that, that you liked the sound of. And so we just iterated through that. I remember, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because you were there too, but once we settled on an envelope circuit that you were digging, I'd always had this idea inspired by Bootsy Collins, because he runs his envelope filter with the whole side chain and the fuzz, so that the fuzz comes before the filter, and it's this very complicated setup that he uses that takes like 4 pedals, right, and a bunch of inserts and all that stuff. So I was like, well, let me see if I can cram that all into one pedal. And so sure enough, I was able to do that. And, I think even today, a lot of people still don't realize that that's the thing of the pedal, is like all this stuff in one pedal. And, you've got the fuzz, you've got the side chain, you've got the filter after the fuzz. Like, it's really, there's definitely no other pedal that does all that stuff. So yeah, I was really happy when we finally got it together after that year.
Yeah.
And it was like, there it is,
There it is, and it's so funny because I feel like it could even expand even more, but the fact that I'm attached to it, a lot of people still can't put 2 and 2 together, or 2 plus 3 together, that a drummer is involved with an envelope filter for guitar and bass.
I mean, you're a lot more than a drummer too. I mean, frankly, you're a great engineer. You've got great ears. You produce, write songs, write music, all that stuff. I mean, it's and you're a closeted bass player. I mean, man,
I am,
dude. Your bass playing is just sick, and so. But I think it's like you said, the point is you've got great ears, and you always said, that's what I want to hear when I'm playing drums, or if I'm playing bass, like that's what I want to hear. So I don't know, it made sense to me.
But let's get into the other pedals that Westco offers, because I know prior to the Grease Juicer, you had a lot of other cool pedals going on.
So the Blue Highway was kind of a combination of all of that. It's a real natural overdrive. A lot of times I'll just use it as a boost. But you can use it as your primary overdrive. Like, it's got enough gain. And it's got, a lot of cool things in the circuit. The EQ is a new custom EQ for the high end that's really sweet sounding. And, it has the clean bleed switch, which I think is really important if you want to stack it with other pedals. And then, of course, like a lot of pedals, it has all the different clipping options, so you can have more or less clipping. And it's probably the most flexible overdrive that I make. But yeah, so the Blue Highway, really digging that. And then we and again, by we, I mean me, I started making another one called the Serious Juju, which I named after the first song that I ever mixed for Sammy Hagar. It was called Serious Juju. And, this one, it's a little more, it's a different circuit. It's kind of like a high headroom Rat pedal. It's sort of inspired by the Rat thing. And, it's Sammy's guitar player, Vic Johnson, used that on their last record for The Circle that they did with Dave Cobb in Nashville. And so it's the type of pedal like you could, just honk through a deluxe, and just have a deluxe reverb in that pedal. And that's kind of all you need for, killer distorted tones, super fat, clean tones. The pedal, it's got a huge low end and flexible EQ, and it's simple, it's just 3 knobs. That's it. So, so those are kind of the two that are sort of, that I've been working on recently, and they seem to be the most popular. But I also, on a more kind of custom basis, I have a nice little stash of old school, OC44 and OC75 transistors that I'll use to make, custom fuzz faces for people and, range masters and that kind of thing.
Cool. And if someone that's watching this right now, they're thinking, man, I'd love to get that. Is there a way they could contact you directly?
Yeah, definitely. Just through the site, westcopedals.com. It's probably the easiest. There's a chat portal there and email. I get all that stuff. So, yeah.
Right on. It was so funny because we actually met as studio musicians through a mutual friend, Rhett Lawrence. You were on a session with me, and I remember seeing you and meeting you, and I was like, man, this dude is just freaking killing. Who is this guy? And I, because all of my sessions were done with like, Paul Jackson Jr. or Dean Parks or, Steve Ferris or, whoever the dudes were in the early 90s. And then here's you in the corner just nailing it. And I thought, wow, this guy, who is this guy? He's awesome.
I appreciate that. I mean, I was definitely never like A-list session guy for sure, but I always felt like, okay, well, I'm just good enough to like sneak into the room. Sometimes I was more like a B- session guy or whatever. So I appreciate the kind words, but
well, you fooled me, because if that's if that's what you're stating, you completely fooled me. And let's talk about as both a player and producer and content creator of all like the things you've done guitar wise in terms of session work and the people you've worked with.
I mean, gosh, it's been, well, like I said, I'm a little older now, so I've done a lot of stuff over the years. And I think early on it was one of my sort of first mentors or guys who helped me get going, Eric Persing. He was
Spectrasonics.
From Spectrasonics. He started, he and his wife Lori. I don't know. I mean, we were just like friends in the sound design business back then, and we worked together at Roland R&D. But I mean, I'm not like a owner or partner of Spectrasonics or anything, but at the very beginning, it was just sort of me, Eric, and Laurie around the kitchen table. And I definitely helped like get the company off the ground at the beginning kind of thing. So,
wow.
So it's
so
just
a co-founder, if you will.
Yeah, but obviously, I mean, their success has everything to do with Eric and Laurie, and I was a helper. I'm a sound developer. I would never take credit for like the company or anything, but I'm a contributor. But yeah, at the beginning it was just Eric. I remember it was what Eric said to me at the early stages of my career. He said, if you want to. He may not even remember saying this, but I remember it very clearly. But he's just said, if you want to survive in the music business, you're going to have to learn everything. And you can't just be a jack of all trades. Like, you're going to have to learn it well, like everything. And I was like, what? Like, oh my God, like that's no pressure or anything. But
Right. And that really does apply to today's standards, right? I mean, now that
yeah,
everyone has home studios and you could buy pretty much everything online and have it sent to your home, you
yeah,
got to learn how to operate all that stuff.
exactly. Yeah. So it was pretty daunting back then, especially because, there's no internet or anything. So there's
Right.
no, like, I have no idea where to go to learn about stuff I need to know. So most of it was just, yeah, kind of like on the job in the heat of battle.
Right. Hands-on
You know,
training, if you will.
yeah, like guys would call me for a gig. I just say yes, whether I knew how to do it or not, and then just, yeah, like figure it out basically. I don't know if you could even get away with that nowadays, but that's just kind of, I felt like every single time it was like, oh, right. Well, Eric said I got to learn everything. So I better get my act together.
Well, there's nothing like throwing yourself in the fire and actually, escaping it.
Yeah. I still think it's a good way to do it. I do talk more with younger people nowadays. A lot of people, they go the school route or, online education, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I still feel like, there's a lot to be said for just say yes to a job and then, figure it out like that. I think is going to get you a little farther than, like, for example, knowing every feature of Pro Tools is great. And at the end of that, every feature of Pro Tools and you could teach a Pro Tools class. But, if you want to do a session with an artist, you don't need to know everything about Pro Tools. You just need to know these are the steps to record this person and get a good take or,
Right. Right. And
which,
speaking of recording, you were a big part of Sammy Hagar's success, right, with his solo records. Let's talk about that.
I would dispute that as well. I would. I mean, Sammy was already obviously very, very successful
Right.
by the time I came into the picture around 2000, and every record that I did sold less and less and less until the last record finally sold more. But it's I guess what if you like it, it was me. If you didn't like it, that was somebody else. But no, I think it was just a combo of things. I'm not sure why the records didn't sell as much, other than like every artist's record sales were just going into the toilet around that
Right.
time.
And what exactly what was your role with Sammy Hagar of those records? There were 6 records?
I think so. Yeah, like 6 records and a couple of DVD movies, and maybe more than 6 records at this point, because I did a couple kind of at the end. But
Okay.
again, because I had that thing from Eric, like you have to do everything. And so when I started working with Sammy, I just like I just did everything. I recorded everything. So tracking engineer, Pro Tools editor, clean up the Pro Tools sessions, mix the thing. The only thing I didn't do was mastering, because I've always really loved Stephen Markison. He's my favorite mastering engineer, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it was on the first record I did with Sammy. We just did a shootout. I sent it out to like a half a dozen engineers. I can't remember who Sammy wanted to use originally, but I was like, no, I think Stephen Markison's the best, and so we sent it out to like 5 or 6. I still have the old CDs from that. And it was insane how much better Stephen Markison's was. His version was so much better than all the other guys. It was like crazy.
Yeah.
And it was kind of great to hear, because I knew he was great, but I had never done anything like that before. So yeah, Stephen Markison has been the man in my mind for forever.
Right.
But
so with Sammy, you were his engineer and co-producer.
Basically his engineer, and engineer and mixing.
Yeah. Now,
And he was kind enough to like lay a producer career on me later. But I mean, he's Sammy Hagar. You know, he already knows who he is, and like I just hit record. He starts singing. It sounds like Sammy Hagar, and I go, awesome. And then I go mix it.
But there is something to be said though about being the one that hits the record button, because you're the one responsible for capturing the magic, if you will. And I've been in so many sessions where the engineer was just like a complete tontaron, just like, dude, you didn't hit record. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, Sam and I definitely. He's one of my favorite singers I've ever worked with, for sure. And we definitely have like a thing, and because I grew up, loving his music, of course. And sorry about that little interruption there.
All good.
I don't know what's happening. Okay, here we go. But because I grew up loving Van Halen, of course, and rock and playing rock and all that. So I had, I think the first record of his that I bought was 3 Lock Box, if you remember that one.
1, 2, 3 Lock Box. Yeah. Oh yeah.
What maniac writes a rock song in 3/4 for starters? And
Sammy Hagar.
So I always appreciated that. And
right.
So yeah, when we record, I don't know if it's because of my background or whatever it is, whatever the thing was, but we definitely have like this really smooth flow. And he's got such a powerful voice even to this day. Like he basically just sings the song. And then we kind of, once, maybe twice, and then we just sort of listen down. And like I pause, like every time we hear something we want to redo, like I pause at the same moment usually that he wants to redo the thing. So it's like, yeah, get that.
So there's some kismet going on. You understand?
And then we're done. And it's like, okay, he likes to work fast. I like to work fast. Like I want him to be in and out of there and feeling good about it in, 30 minutes or less.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, sometimes even less, like 15 minutes, just sing the song a couple times, a couple fixes, right. On to the next thing.
And prior to Sammy, just moving along the board here, prior to Sammy, you worked with another amazing composer. Who is that?
Well, there's a lot of them. So
there's a lot of them, but yeah, the one that we all know and love.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let me just back that up for a second. So when I was working at Roland R&D with Eric, and Mark Cerruto was the boss, and Chris Meyer worked there, and that was just it. Also, Sachi, the receptionist, was there, so it was like just the 5 of us. Scott Hunter was there as well for a little bit, and so basically that was kind of like my day job. And the sampler that we were working on, well, the first one was the S770. Probably nobody remembers that, but
wow.
But then the next one that I did a lot of work on was the S760. And I
had 4 of them.
There you go. Yeah, a lot of people had multiples. And we did the I guess what you would call the factory library now. We had the project series and the something series, the big series, which the archive series. That's what it was.
Right.
Or I'm digging way back now. This is amazing that I'm even coming up with these terms. But so I did a lot of work on the archive series and the project series, and Eric was the head of the team that was doing that, and the team was Eric, me, and Scott Hunter, and that was it, and Chris Meyer a little bit too. So I was doing that during the day, and then in the evenings, I had met Hans Zimmer, and Hans was like, "Oh, great! Hey, as long as you're here, can you tweak this, filter setting for me on the he had Akai S1000s at the time, and so I was like, yeah, sure, I can tweak that, and so I stayed for a couple hours and helped him like tweak his setup and load all these vocal samples in. And Hans was like, great, can you come back tomorrow? And I said, yeah, sure, I can come back tomorrow. And so I came back tomorrow, and then come back tomorrow. And I kept basically, my whole working thing with Hans was I just kept coming back tomorrow for 12 years.
Wow. And so you're kind of his utility guy, right? You played guitar for him, you did programming, you did studio setup.
Yeah. Not so much studio setup, but definitely a lot of sampling. And
wow.
If the movie that he was working on happened to have guitar in it, then I would play guitar at the end. So I would sample guitars at the beginning so he could play on his keyboard, what he wanted to hear. And then at the end, I would either augment or replace all the guitars that he had put in the movie. So a lot of those big action movies that he did in the 90s, that was a lot of my guitar on there, like, Broken Arrow and The Rock. There was a ton of me in The Rock. And what else? The Fan, there was some guitar in there.
Wow. So you basically really helped define like where he was, his trajectory was going, because I mean, as we all know, he's kind of you look at who's the composer for the movie, and it's
I don't know that
Hans.
I don't know that I would take that much credit for it. I mean, Hans is as most people know now, he's a big personality with a lot of big ideas, and he definitely had the vision, and I was just executing what he wanted me to do.
Yeah, but to have been there during that time, though, I mean, that's just definitely part of the whole building block of what it is today. I mean, I always feel that's no matter who's there at that time, that's like that was the bouilla base, if you will, of the dish.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was kind of, his thing was always like he would have an idea, let's do this thing. And I learned pretty quickly, like, you just don't even bother asking, like, oh, when do you want to do it? Because the answer is always like, now.
No, we need it yesterday.
Yeah, like, we're doing this now. And which I loved back then in my 20s. I had, limitless energy. So I'm like, great. Yeah, let's do it now, But I don't think I could handle that kind of pressure these days. But but it was great back then.
So let's talk a little bit about these days. What are you up to, and what are you doing these days other than westcopedals? I know you got going on, and gosh, sessions and recording, and I mean, you're just the Renaissance man, if you will. What else have you been up to these days?
Yeah, I mean, kind of a lot these days. I've been doing a lot of freelance work again, and some, I've done a lot of composing for video games in the past, and some stuff for television. So I'm kind of back doing a little bit of composing again, and mixing, and unfortunately, it's some stuff that's kind of taken me away from Westco a little bit. So this year's been not as Westco heavy as I would have liked, but it's okay. I'm doing some other stuff that's really fun, and so a lot of composing, a lot of mixing, and definitely always more Spectrasonic stuff. That's always been the continuous thread throughout all these years, is always have Spectrasonics projects percolating in the background.
Wow.
So
that's incredible. So Eric keeps you busy.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's, that's been, like I said, I mean, that's just been the one consistent thing in my life. And Eric and Laurie are just, I love them so much. I mean, they're so great. And I just feel like, they built this thing from nothing, and it's just amazing to have seen it take on this life of its own, over the years. And
absolutely.
But yeah, it was really cool. I guess 2 years ago now, they released Nylon Sky, which was one of the first 4 Sonic extensions. And it was just really cool. They did those little tribute videos, that one for each of the artists. They did like an artist video, and The one they did for me, I thought was really nice. And obviously I didn't expect anything of that scale or whatever, but it was a great kind of thing that they did for that.
Great. And we could view that on YouTube and the Spectrasonics.
On YouTube, yeah, on the Spectrasonics channel. If you search Nylon Sky on YouTube, that comes up. And we did a little like a roundtable live stream that was pretty cool.
So before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you, because now we're, it's 2023 and we're moving forward and technology just seems to be at a lightning pace. Where does AI fit into the whole music scene in your point of view?
I am a little of a different opinion, I think, than most people, maybe because I'm older or, maybe the AI that I've seen is not on par with what other people have seen. But right. I think AI is great for example, the music generation AI tools that are out there now. I'm sure I'll be proven wrong by all this, like most things in my life. But the stuff that I've heard, like if you just I need music, like I just need music now, that's great. And it gives you music, but if you need, like, I need music for this scene and it has to hit these 5 things and it has to touch this very specific kind of emotion, I don't think it'll ever get there. I mean,
yeah, it really does require the human touch, if you will, to emote that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's, you're not going to have an AI guitar player that's going to sound like Eddie, It's just never going to happen.
Yeah. They'll try, but I don't think they'll even come close.
So I'm, like I said, I'm sure I'll be proven wrong about all this stuff, but the day that somebody, releases a new, let's just say a new Van Halen song, and it fools me, like, oh, this is a Van Halen song from the archives or whatever. They feed the AI every Van Halen song, and they want to generate a new Van Halen song. And the day that happens, that it fools me, then I will concede defeat. But I think that's a long time coming, and probably
a long time coming. For those of you that want to follow Bobby D on social media, where do we go to do that?
Well, I would say go to the Westco site, westcopedals on Instagram and westcopedals.com.
That's it. The Cricket B Show. I'm Cricket B, Bobby D. We out. Thank you.